Hi, my name is Mary Beth Rucker from the Intel Ethernet Product Marketing Group. I want to thank you for joining us today. We have in our studio panelists from HP, Intel, and IDC covering the topic of addressing a growing demand for improved I/O in virtualized server environments. Let me take a moment and introduce our panel of experts. Gene Bosman, Vice President of IDC's Enterprise Platforms Group.
Hello, Mary Beth.
Jim Shea, Product Manager for HP ProLiant Server Networking.
Hi, Mary Beth.
And Sunil Alawalia, Product Line Manager for Intel Ethernet Products.
Hello, Mary Beth.
Welcome, and again, thank you for joining us. Gene, let's go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Mary Beth. So, virtualization is rising. There's a lot of adoption of this virtualization technology. We've been hearing about it. It's happening on a worldwide basis. This adoption is not limited to the enterprise. In fact, small, medium businesses, those organizations are virtualizing as well. And why are they doing it? They're trying to be more efficient about how they deploy their workloads onto the servers that they have, onto physical servers, getting better resource utilization, consolidating workloads, and also potentially saving on power and cooling as they gather those workloads together to run more efficiently on smaller number of footprints. So the average number of VMs or virtual machines has been rising. And we've been tracking that at IDC through our repeated studies of customers that we do in groups of hundreds of customers at a time. So we're really tracking how this progresses. Now, if you had looked a couple of years ago, you would have seen that the average number of VMs per physical server was about 2 to 4. Today, it's more at an average of 6 to 8 to 10 virtual machines per physical server. And, in fact, if we look at some sites where virtualization's been going on for a while, they're actually averaging an even higher number, ranging as high as 15 to 20 or more. But their ability to do this depends on the workload type, the density of the server itself, and the amount of processor, memory, and I/O capability that they have on those physical servers. So with all of this server density and VM density, the need for increased I/O is clear. There are multiple factors driving this increased need for I/O in the virtualized data center. These include the emergence of a converged network fabric in the enterprise data center with 1 gigabit Ethernet, 10 gigabit Ethernet, and other network protocols as well. Although the overall trend is clear, it will take a number of years to achieve a fully converged network fabric in the enterprise data center. And that unified fabric will link together the servers, storage, and I/O switches in the data center. Now, in smaller data centers or in computer rooms and SMB organizations, there are many budgetary constraints for IT spend. And so much of the focus there will be on improving the performance of server I/O in order to support business applications, to improve application availability, and to reduce operational costs. But from a server perspective, the capacity to support more physical I/O comes from the number of I/O ports that are attached to that server. This gives rise to demand for multi-port I/O technologies for servers. These are technologies that support more I/O connections to each individual server. So today, we'll be talking about virtualization, the emerging I/O requirements for the virtualized server infrastructure, and the important role that server I/O is playing in this infrastructure transition to a virtualized data center. So now let's talk to our panelists. I have a first question for you. What are you seeing in terms of these trends in I/O to support virtualization? And can you describe how your company supports multi-port NICs? And by the way, NIC is short for network interface cards. And how does this impact server I/O? Sunil, would you like to start?
Yeah, thanks, Gene. You're absolutely right. I think we are seeing an increase in virtual machines per server. And furthermore, that increase in virtual machines is driving the need for more network ports. In fact, at Intel IT, we see every server that is deployed as a virtualized server has 6 to 8 gigabit ports. So as IT managers look at virtual server deployments, they need to be careful how they configure their infrastructure because they will need more bandwidth and they have to plan the number of gigabit ports in that infrastructure very carefully.
Okay. Well, thanks. Jim, would you like to take a shot at that question?
I would. Thanks, Gene. First, and perhaps foremost, multi-port NICs save slots. This is a hugely important consideration in slot-constrained rack servers that are deploying virtualized environments. The trend towards multi-port NICs is indicated by the fact that shipments of our dual and quad-port adapters continue to increase even as we have put more embedded ports on the system board of our servers.
Great. So why is this so important for business applications where performance is key for end users, and improving I/O should be a factor in improving performance in those environments, right?
Yes, Gene. So as an IT manager looks at their infrastructure from an application perspective, there are three things that are key considerations. First is efficiency. Second being performance. And finally, application availability. Now, as Jim mentioned, multi-port adapters save I/O slots. This is very important in delivering better network efficiency, which is key for IT managers. They can use these additional slots to either satisfy storage, additional storage needs, or add any other peripherals to their servers. Furthermore, since we have consolidated multiple ports on a single card, that saves energy costs. Now, beyond efficiency, multi-port adapters deliver performance in a very flexible manner. Customers can deploy one card and use multiple ports to team them, group them together to deliver higher bandwidth, or they could use those ports to fan out traffic to different parts of the network. For example, in a customer deployment, video or web or storage traffic could be segregated using these separate ports. This is something that we call as network segmentation. Finally, another important business challenge, as I mentioned, is application availability. Multi-port gigabit adapters provide advanced features such as port redundancy and failover capabilities that enhance this application availability. That is critical for IT managers' service contracts.
Well, thanks, Sunil. So I have a new question. How will customers design their deployments for virtualized environments?
Yeah. Let's look at a deployment scenario of a virtualized server. As we add more VMs per server, the utilization on the processor increases. And that's a good thing. But at the same time, multiple resources are contending for the same I/O. Here in this chart, you see a typical virtual server implementation. There are 4 ports used for production and backup traffic. Then there are 2 ports for management, one for remote management and one for local system console. There is an additional port for VM mobility or migration traffic. This provides customers the ability or the flexibility to plan downtime for their routine maintenance activities. Since more applications are competing for available network resources, multi-port gigabit adapters are vital for the infrastructure. They conserve valuable slots, they eliminate network bottlenecks, and help fan out network traffic in a VM environment.
Well, thanks, Sunil. Well, how is HP solving this customer need to improve I/O for x86 server deployments?
We ship 4 adapters that use Intel's networking technology, and a good place to learn about them is on the HP Intel Virtualization microsite. We have 2 dual-port NICs and 2 quad-port NICs. The dual-port is called a 360M for our blades and 360T for the racks and towers. The quad ports are 364M for the blades and 364T for the racks and towers. Now, in our numbering scheme, M stands for a mezzanine card that's used in blade servers, and the T stands for twisted pair NICs that are PCI Express NICs used in racks and towers. And then secondly, for many of our server customers, it's crucial that their options be fully qualified. And so the 4 Intel-based NICs that we use are considered qualified options, and they're also validated on all the major virtualized environments.
Well, thanks, Jim. So we're going to move into the section here where we talk about some conclusions and key takeaways. So let me start with this question. Different customers are at different stages of adoption for virtualization. What should they look for in I/O solutions from vendors and their partners to address this challenge? Jim, would you like to start?
Gladly. I think for a virtualized solution from your networking provider, there are 4 things that are really important to pay attention to. Product reliability, performance, portfolio breadth, and future-proofing. Now, reliability refers to quality, and it's of the utmost importance. Performance, we've already talked about, but it has to be performance that will be for increasingly demanding virtualized platforms. Portfolio breadth, everybody needs high-quality, high-performance products that can be deployed across any virtualized environment. And finally, future-proofing. You need to make sure that your networking products have a life cycle and a feature set to protect the investment in virtualized solutions, because they're going to last for a long time. And it's worth remarking that we find all of these qualities with Intel's Ethernet product offerings.
Okay, thanks. Sunil, would you please add your comments about this set of I/O needs that's emerging in the virtualized environments?
So I agree with Jim. Performance and reliability are critical requirements. Intel is a leader in delivering virtualization technologies. Working on our virtualization platforms back in 2006, we realized that there is an I/O tax for delivering virtualization. As you can see in this chart, in a virtual server, there is lower throughput and higher CPU utilization to deliver the same amount of I/O. We have been working with various virtualization server partners to deliver queuing technologies that help alleviate this I/O tax. We continue to push forward with standards-based virtualization solutions such as SRIOV to deliver the best virtualization performance for our customers. From a reliability and quality perspective, we test our products in a variety of ways. We bend the NICs, we twist them, we cook them, we put them under 50 Gs of stress. The net result is a high-quality product that has less than 200 defects per million. Now, Intel is well known for their processors, but few people know that Intel has been delivering high-quality Ethernet products for over 25 years. We introduced industry's first quad-port adapter back in 2006. We have a long history and a broad product roadmap and are committed to deliver products that just work.
Well, thanks, Sunil. Now, I want to ask a different question. What signs can customers look for in their own sites that show that more I/O bandwidth is needed for their virtualized environments? What should they be looking for? Jim, would you like to take a shot at that question?
Sure, Gene. For our server customers, two things always come up: performance and cost. After reliability, performance is key. In fact, it's usually all about performance. And secondly, customers are continually looking at saving costs. For our customers, virtualization is driven primarily by cost savings. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that for our HP server customers, performance is about what they have today, and cost is about what they'll have tomorrow. The customers are looking for cost reductions through virtualization and consolidation so that they can spend less on maintenance and acquisition and more on new applications and business solutions.
Great. Well, thanks, Jim. You've both been very clear about the need for multi-port NICs and for improved I/O virtualization. Please round out the picture. Where is this trend going, and what does the future hold? Sunil, you might want to lead off here.
Thanks, Gene. As virtualization and other technologies drive a paradigm shift in the data center, we continue towards higher performing I/O solutions. Our goal is to simplify the data center by consolidating different traffic types on the unified Ethernet fabric while using standards-based Ethernet adapters. HP and Intel are committed to working together to deliver the best multi-port virtualization performance today and in the future.
Jim, could you please add to that?
Thanks, Gene. Intel and HP have a networking relationship that spans over 10 of the 25 years that Intel has been in the networking business. And this has led to server adapters for our platforms that are designed, developed, and delivered with the server customer in mind. As we leverage that long relationship, customers can expect to see higher performance HP platforms and a clear trend towards the converged network fabric that Jean mentioned in her introduction. Both of these trends require more I/O bandwidth.
Well, thanks very much, Jim. And thanks to Sunil also for his comments earlier. Let me send it back now to Mary Beth.
Thank you, Jim, Jean, and Sunil for your participation in today's discussion. On behalf of HP, Intel, and IDC, we thank you very much for listening. For more information from Intel and HP on delivering I/O virtualization to the data center, you can visit www.hpintelvt.com.